The river flowed gently, a ribbon of silver winding through the green fields. It was Sarah's favorite place. She lived in a small cottage overlooking the water, and every morning, she'd sit on her porch with a cup of tea, watching the sun dance on the surface. Sarah loved the peace and quiet, the way the river seemed to whisper secrets to the trees. She felt safe and content in her little corner of the world. Sarah was known in the nearby town for her kindness. She always had a smile for everyone and was quick to lend a helping hand. Her heart was as warm as the summer sun, and people were drawn to her gentle nature. She volunteered at the local library, reading stories to children, and often baked cookies for the elderly residents of the town. But beneath her gentle exterior was a core of bravery. Sarah wasn't afraid to stand up for what was right, and she always put others before herself. This bravery would soon be tested in a way she never imagined, changing her life forever in the most unexpected way. The river, which brought her so much peace, was about to become the stage for a moment of incredible heroism and an unbelievable twist of fate. Not far from Sarah's peaceful cottage, lived a young boy named Billy. Billy was a bundle of energy, always running and jumping, his bright eyes sparkling with mischief. He lived with his mother, Emily, in a small house at the edge of town. Emily loved Billy more than anything in the world and tried her best to keep him safe. Billy, however, had a knack for adventure. He loved exploring the woods behind his house, climbing trees, and, most of all, playing near the river. His mother constantly warned him about the dangers of the water, telling him to stay away from the slippery banks and the fast current. "The river can be very dangerous, Billy," she would say, her voice filled with worry. "Promise me you'll be careful." Billy would always promise, his little face earnest, but his adventurous spirit often got the better of him. He couldn't resist the allure of the river, the chance to skip stones and watch the little fish darting through the clear water. He thought he was careful, but one sunny afternoon, his curiosity would lead him into trouble, bringing him face to face with the very danger his mother warned him about. This day, he'd venture closer than ever before, forgetting his promise. The sun shone brightly that afternoon, tempting Billy to the riverbank. He'd promised his mother he would stay in the yard, but the sparkling water called to him like a siren's song. He told himself he would just go for a little while, just to skip a few stones. He carefully made his way down the grassy slope to the river's edge. The bank was muddier than he remembered, and the smooth stones he usually used for skipping were further out than he could reach. He stretched his arm, trying to grab a perfect, flat stone, leaning further and further towards the water. Suddenly, the muddy bank gave way beneath his feet. With a gasp, Billy lost his balance and tumbled headfirst into the cold, rushing water. The river grabbed him instantly, pulling him downstream. He thrashed and sputtered, trying to get his bearings, but the current was too strong. He swallowed water, choking and coughing. Fear gripped him as he realized he was in real danger. He cried out for help, his voice barely audible above the roar of the river. The playful afternoon had turned into a terrifying struggle for survival. He was alone, and the river was winning. Just as Billy felt his strength failing, a flash of color caught his eye. He saw Sarah, standing on the bank, her face etched with concern. She had been tending her garden when she heard a faint cry for help carried on the wind. Without a moment's hesitation, she dropped her gardening tools and ran towards the sound. Seeing Billy struggling in the water, Sarah knew she had to act fast. The current was strong, and Billy was quickly being swept further downstream. She kicked off her shoes and, taking a deep breath, plunged into the cold river. The icy water shocked her system, but she pushed forward, swimming against the relentless current. Each stroke was a battle, but she kept her eyes fixed on Billy, his small head bobbing in the water. She focused all her energy on reaching him, her heart pounding in her chest. She knew that every second counted. The thought of him disappearing beneath the surface spurred her on, driving her to fight harder. She had to reach him. She had to save him. The distance seemed impossible, but she refused to give up. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Sarah reached Billy. He was weak and shivering, barely able to keep his head above water. She wrapped her arm around him, holding him close, trying to offer him some warmth and reassurance. "I've got you," she said, her voice strained but firm. "I'm going to get you out of here." Turning back towards the shore, Sarah began the difficult journey back. The current was still against them, and she had to support Billy's weight, making each stroke even more challenging. Her muscles screamed in protest, and she felt her energy reserves dwindling. But she couldn't give up. She had to get Billy to safety. With a final burst of strength, she pulled them both to the riverbank. They collapsed onto the grass, gasping for air, exhausted but alive. Sarah held Billy tightly, relieved that they were both safe. The ordeal had been terrifying, but they had made it through. The river, which had almost claimed Billy's life, had also brought them together in a moment of extraordinary bravery and connection. They lay there for a moment, catching their breath, the sound of the rushing water a stark reminder of their near-death experience. Shivering and soaking wet, Billy looked up at Sarah, his eyes wide with gratitude. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "You saved my life." Sarah smiled weakly, her own body trembling from the cold and exertion. "You're welcome, Billy," she said, squeezing his hand gently. "I'm just glad I was here." She looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time. He was just a little boy, so small and vulnerable. The thought of what could have happened sent a shiver down her spine. "I was so scared," Billy confessed, tears welling up in his eyes. "I know," Sarah said softly, wiping away his tears with her sleeve. "But you're safe now. That's all that matters." She helped him sit up, wrapping her arms around him to provide some warmth. "We need to get you home," she said. "Your mother must be worried sick." Together, they slowly made their way towards Billy's house, leaving wet footprints on the path. Sarah kept a close eye on Billy, making sure he was okay. She knew that the experience had been traumatic for him, and she wanted to offer him as much comfort and support as she could. As they walked, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that this rescue was more than just a random act of kindness. She felt a strange connection to Billy, a sense that their paths were meant to cross. Little did she know, she was right. Their lives were about to become intertwined in a way she could never have imagined. As they neared Billy's house, they could see Emily standing on the porch, her face pale with worry, her eyes scanning the horizon. When she saw Billy, her expression transformed from fear to overwhelming relief. She rushed towards them, her arms outstretched. "Billy," she cried, pulling him into a tight embrace. "Oh, Billy, I was so worried. Where were you? What happened?" Billy clung to his mother, burying his face in her shoulder. "I fell in the river, Mommy," he sobbed. "But Sarah saved me." Emily's gaze shifted to Sarah, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You saved my son?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Oh, thank you so much. I don't know what I would have done if something had happened to him." She rushed forward and enveloped Sarah in a hug. "I can never repay you for this." Sarah hugged her back, feeling a warmth spread through her despite the chill of her wet clothes. "He's a brave little boy," she said, smiling at Billy. "I was just glad I could help." As Emily pulled back, her eyes searched Sarah's face, a flicker of recognition in her gaze. A strange silence fell between them, a silent question hanging in the air. Something about Sarah's face, her eyes, her smile, seemed familiar to Emily. And then, it hit her. A memory, long buried, surfaced in her mind. The twist was about to begin. Emily stepped back, still holding Billy close, but her eyes were fixed on Sarah. "Sarah," she said slowly, testing the name on her tongue. "Is your full name Sarah Miller?" Sarah frowned, surprised. "Yes," she replied. "How did you know?" She didn't recognize Emily at all. She'd never seen this woman before in her life. Emily's eyes filled with tears. "It can't be," she whispered, shaking her head in disbelief. It's been so long. She reached out and gently touched Sarah's cheek, her fingers tracing the familiar curve of her face. Do you remember a little girl named Emily? A little girl who loved to collect seashells and build sandcastles. Sarah's mind raced, trying to grasp what was happening. The name Emily sounded vaguely familiar, a distant echo from her childhood. But she couldn't quite place it. I don't know, she stammered, confused. I'm sorry. I don't remember. Emily's shoulders slumped, but a glimmer of hope remained in her eyes. Think, Sarah, she pleaded. Think about the old oak tree in Grandma's garden. We carved our initials into it, remember? S, M, and E, M. The air crackled with unspoken words, with the weight of a shared past that Sarah couldn't quite access. The incredible twist was unfolding, revealing a connection that had been lost for years. Emily took a deep breath, her voice trembling with emotion. Sarah, we were sisters, she said, the words hanging in the air like fragile ornaments. We were separated when we were little. Our parents. They couldn't take care of us both. I was adopted by the Smiths, and you. You went to live with Grandma Miller. Sarah stared at Emily, her mind reeling. Sisters. It seemed impossible. Her memories of her early childhood were hazy, fragmented images of a loving grandmother and a big, rambling house filled with sunshine and laughter. There was no mention of a sister, no trace of another little girl sharing her life. I don't understand, Sarah said, her voice barely a whisper. I don't remember any of this. Emily reached into her purse and pulled out a faded photograph. She carefully handed it to Sarah. Look, she said, her voice filled with hope. This is us. This was taken the summer before we were separated. Sarah took the photograph, her hands shaking. It was an old black and white picture of two little girls, standing side by side, their arms around each other. One of the girls looked like a younger version of Emily, her eyes bright and mischievous. The other looked like Sarah. The resemblance was undeniable. A wave of emotion washed over Sarah, a mixture of shock, disbelief, and a strange sense of recognition. Could it be true? Could this woman, this stranger, really be her sister? The twist was now undeniable, a seismic shift in Sarah's understanding of her own life. The photograph was a window into a past Sarah couldn't remember. Times were hard back then. Their parents, young and struggling, loved them dearly, but they knew they couldn't provide the stable home the girls deserved. It was a heartbreaking decision, one that haunted them for years to come. They believed they were giving their daughters the best chance at a good life, even if it meant separating them. Emily had been adopted by a kind couple who lived in a different town. They showered her with love and opportunities, but she never forgot her sister. She often wondered what had happened to Sarah, hoping that she was safe and happy. She tried to find her over the years, but with limited information and resources, her search proved fruitless. She held on to the photograph, a tangible reminder of the sister she had lost. Sarah, on the other hand, had grown up with her grandmother, a warm and nurturing woman who provided her with a loving and stable environment. Her grandmother never spoke of Emily, perhaps to protect Sarah from the pain of separation. As Sarah grew older, she never questioned her past, content with the life she had. Now, standing on Emily's porch, soaking wet and holding a faded photograph, her past was suddenly being rewritten. The rescue in the river had unknowingly brought two long-lost sisters back together, fulfilling a silent wish that had lingered in Emily's heart for decades. The reunion was a twist of fate that neither of them could have ever predicted. Sarah felt as though the ground beneath her was shifting. Her head swam with a mixture of disbelief and a strange, unfamiliar emotion that tugged at her heart. I need to sit down, she stammered, her legs feeling weak. Emily gently guided her inside the house, leading her to a comfortable armchair in the living room. Billy, sensing the gravity of the situation, stayed close to his mother, his eyes wide with curiosity and concern. As Sarah sat down, Emily knelt beside her, taking her hand. "I know this is a lot to take in," she said softly. "It's okay to be confused. But I promise you, it's true. We're sisters." She squeezed Sarah's hand, her eyes filled with warmth and sincerity. "I have so many memories of us, Sarah. Memories that I've cherished for years." She began to recount stories from their childhood, building fairy houses in the woods behind their house, singing silly songs while swinging on the tire swing, sharing secrets whispered under the covers at night. She described their favorite bedtime story, the silly nicknames they had for each other, and the time they tried to bake a cake for their mother's birthday and ended up covering the entire kitchen in flour. With each memory, a flicker of recognition sparked in Sarah's eyes, a faint echo of a past she had long forgotten. The pieces of her life were slowly beginning to fall into place, revealing a picture she never knew existed. The twist, unbelievable as it seemed, was starting to feel real. Emily continued to share stories, each one a tiny piece of a puzzle Sarah couldn't quite assemble. The details were vivid, the emotions raw, but the memories remained elusive, just beyond her grasp. She felt a strange mix of emotions, confusion, disbelief, and a growing sense of longing for something she couldn't name. "It's like I'm seeing flashes of a movie I've never watched," Sarah said, her voice thick with emotion. "I recognize the scenes, the characters, but I don't know the plot. I don't know how it ends." She looked at Emily, her eyes pleading for understanding. "I want to remember," she said. "I really do. But it's just not there." Emily squeezed her hand again, her eyes filled with compassion. "It's okay, Sarah," she said. "Don't force it. The memories will come back in their own time." She smiled gently. "Maybe we can help each other remember. We can look through old photo albums, visit the places we used to go. We can rebuild our past, together." Billy, who had been listening intently, piped up, "Can I help too, Mommy? I can ask Grandma Smith about Aunt Sarah." The word aunt hung in the air, a symbol of the newfound connection between them. Aunt Sarah. It sounded strange, yet somehow right. Sarah looked at Billy, his face radiating innocence and love. She realized that this little boy, whom she had saved from the river, had unknowingly brought her back to her sister, back to a part of herself she had lost long ago. The twist of fate was complete, and a new chapter in her life was just beginning. Emily then shared a memory that resonated deep within Sarah's soul, a story she hadn't consciously remembered, but one that sparked something undeniable within her. "Remember Mr. Snuggles?" Emily asked, her eyes twinkling. "He was your favorite teddy bear, the one with the missing button eye. You were convinced he was a secret agent, and you used to whisper top-secret missions to him every night before you went to sleep." Sarah gasped, a sudden image flashing in her mind, a worn teddy bear with a lopsided grin, perched on her bedside table. She could almost feel the soft fur beneath her fingers, hear the faint creak of its joints as she confided her childish secrets. "Mr. Snuggles," she whispered, the name a forgotten melody on her tongue. I think I do remember." Emily smiled, her eyes brimming with tears. "And remember the time we tried to give Mr. Snuggles a bath in the kitchen sink, and we accidentally flooded the entire room?" Sarah laughed, a genuine, heartfelt laugh that bubbled up from deep within her. The image of the flooded kitchen, the two of them splashing in the water with the soggy teddy bear, came flooding back to her, clear and vivid. It was as if a dam had broken, releasing a torrent of long-forgotten memories. "Oh my goodness," she said, wiping away tears of laughter. "I do remember. We were so naughty." With each shared memory, Sarah felt the pieces of her past clicking into place, solidifying the bond between her and Emily. The shock and confusion began to fade, replaced by a growing sense of acceptance and belonging. The twist, once unbelievable, now felt like a homecoming. The river had not only saved Billy's life but had also reunited two sisters, giving them a second chance to create a lifetime of new memories together. Looking at Emily, Sarah saw not a stranger, but a reflection of herself, a missing piece of her own identity. She saw the shared history etched in Emily's eyes, the unspoken understanding that only sisters could possess. The memories, once hazy and distant, were now becoming clearer, sharper, more real. "I believe you," Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. "I believe we're sisters." She reached out and took Emily's hand, squeezing it tightly. "I don't know why I don't remember everything, but I feel it. I feel a connection to you, something I can't explain." A wave of relief washed over Emily's face. "Oh, Sarah," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I've waited so long to hear you say that." She pulled Sarah into a warm embrace, holding her tightly. "Welcome home, sister." Billy, watching the emotional reunion, ran over and wrapped his arms around both of them. "I'm so happy you're my aunt, Sarah," he exclaimed, his voice filled with joy. Sarah hugged him back, her heart overflowing with love. She realized that the twist of fate that had brought them together was more than just a reunion, it was a new beginning, a chance to create a family she never knew she was missing. Saving Billy from the river had not only saved his life but had also saved her from a life of loneliness and incompleteness. The river, once a symbol of danger, had become a symbol of hope, connection, and the enduring power of family. In the days that followed, Sarah and Emily spent every moment together, filling in the gaps in their shared history and forging a new path forward. They looked through old photo albums, laughing at the silly hairstyles and outdated clothes. They visited Grandma Miller's old house, now occupied by a new family, and stood beneath the ancient oak tree, tracing the faded initials carved into its trunk. They shared stories, tears, and laughter, rebuilding a bond that had been broken for far too long. Sarah decided to move into the spare room at Emily's house, wanting to be close to her sister and her nephew. It felt strange, and yet so right, to be living together after all these years. Billy was overjoyed to have his aunt living with them, and he quickly became Sarah's shadow, following her around and peppering her with questions about her life by the river. They started new traditions, like Sunday night dinners and family movie nights. They celebrated birthdays and holidays together, filling their home with love and laughter. Sarah learned how to braid Billy's hair, and Emily taught Sarah how to make her famous apple pie. They were building a family, brick by brick, memory by memory. The river, which had once separated them, had now brought them together, creating a bond that was stronger than ever. The twist of fate had transformed their lives, giving them a second chance at happiness and a family they had both longed for, deep down in their hearts. Billy's life was enriched beyond measure by the arrival of his Aunt Sarah. He had always been a happy child, but Sarah's presence brought a new dimension of joy to his life. He loved hearing her stories about living by the river, about the animals she had befriended, and the adventures she had experienced. He felt a special connection to her, a bond forged in the crucible of the river rescue. He helped Sarah rediscover her own childhood, patiently listening to her as she pieced together fragments of her past. He drew pictures of Mr. Snuggles, the secret agent teddy bear, and proudly displayed them on the refrigerator. He even convinced Sarah to take him to the river, promising to stay far away from the edge. Billy felt incredibly proud that his rescuer was also his aunt. He told all his friends at school about her bravery and kindness, and about the amazing twist of fate that had brought them together. He understood, in his own way, that the river had not only tried to take him away but had also given him a gift of family and love that he would cherish forever. He knew that Aunt Sarah would always be there for him, a constant source of support and affection. He had gained not only an aunt but also a best friend, a confidant, and a second mother all rolled into one. The river, once a source of fear, had become a symbol of the extraordinary power of connection and the unexpected blessings that life can bring. The story of Sarah, Emily, and Billy became a legend in their small town. It was a testament to the power of kindness, the enduring strength of family, and the unpredictable nature of fate. The river, once feared, was now celebrated as a symbol of reunion and new beginnings. Sarah and Emily continued to cherish their newfound sisterhood, supporting each other through thick and thin, creating a bond that could never be broken. They honored their parents' memory by creating a loving and stable home for Billy, ensuring that he grew up knowing the importance of family and the value of human connection. And Billy? He grew up to be a kind and compassionate young man, inspired by Sarah's bravery and Emily's unwavering love. He never forgot the day he fell into the river, the day that changed his life forever. He understood that even in the darkest of moments, there is always hope, and that sometimes, the greatest blessings come in the most unexpected ways. Years later, Billy often brought his own children to the riverbank, teaching them to respect its power and appreciate its beauty. He told them the story of how their great-aunt Sarah saved his life and reunited their family, a story that would be passed down through generations, a reminder that even the most turbulent waters can lead to the most beautiful shores. The incredible twist had not only changed their lives forever but had created a legacy of love, courage, and family that would endure for generations to come.